If you've been following this channel recently, you'll know that I haven't been the biggest fan of the Book of Boba Fett. To say that the first 3 episodes were a slow burn is criminal understatement. The first 3 episodes were like a nagging constipation. You knew something was in there somewhere, but it refused to come out and you left unsatisfied. But the last 3 episodes came along like turbo lax.
1/2 teaspoon for fast, effective relief.
Do not go in there. Woo!
In this video, we're going to dive into an observation that has been sweeping the internet concerning the latest episode of the Book of Boba Fett and the very future of the Star Wars franchise. Something happened on the show which may lead to the retcon of the abysmal Sequel Trilogy and victory for the fans. I'm going to make a bold prediction based on this observation, but in order to do so, there will be spoilers. So if you care about spoilers, make sure you've watched the Book of Boba Fett Episode 6 before going forward, but then come back to this video because I promise this is an interesting and original take on a topic that Star Wars fans can't stop talking about. One that has the potential to end the conversation about a Lucasfilm Civil War forever.
And we shall have peace.
So, in order to understand this observation, which may mean the end of Rey Skywalker, aka female Jesus with a lightsaber, we must first dive into what is likely now the most monumental moment in Disney Star Wars. But first, a little backstory. In Episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett, Din Djarin takes a corselet of armor made out of Beskar to Grogu because, according to the Mandalorian code, Grogu is a foundling, and it's his right to have Beskar. When Din Djarin arrives on the planet, Luke is training Grogu, and Ahsoka is there as well. Ahsoka stops Din Djarin from seeing Grogu and tells him that the little green guy is struggling because he misses Din Djarin. She says that if Grogu sees Din, it will only make things harder for him. The Mandalorian reluctantly agrees to leave the Beskar armor with her, and she gives it to Luke in order to give it to Grogu. Throughout the episode, while Luke is training little Grogu, they do a nice job of showing conflict in the little guy. He isn't fully committed to being a Jedi. He misses his friend. So, near the end of the episode, Luke presents a choice for Grogu. He lays out the Beskar and tells Grogu that it's from Din Djarin. And then he lays out Yoda's old lightsaber and tells him to choose one of them. If he takes the Beskar, he will be returned to Din Djarin, but if he takes the lightsaber, he'll become the first student in Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Academy. And that's where we need to take a timeout, because things have gotten very interesting. Obviously, this is a very compelling choice from a character development perspective, but Kathleen Kennedy and her acolytes have already established canon that says that Ben Solo was the first student in Luke's academy. Check out this article from Screen Rant from a few years ago. Star Wars confirms Ben Solo was Luke's first Jedi student. In this article, they're discussing issue 3 of the comic book The Rise of Kylo Ren, and this snippet here is quite revealing. It says, Ben reveals the early days of his training with his uncle Luke as his first student. While Leia was technically the first to be trained by Luke in the days following the victory of the rebellion, she was older and her training was left incomplete. As Luke reveals in The Rise of Skywalker, Ben was Luke's first official student when he started the new Jedi Temple.
Kaboom! You've been lawyered.
What this means then is that Grogu is not the only one with a choice. Disney itself has an opportunity to repair the fractured Star Wars fanbase. If Grogu chooses the lightsaber, it will mean that the sequel trilogy has been retconned, and the path of the Mandoverse no longer leads to cultural vandalism.
We are who we choose to be. Now choose!
Now, before I go off in this direction, let me preface it by saying I could be completely wrong. This is just my theory based on closely following Star Wars news and looking at the past behavior of Disney Lucasfilm, which, a few years ago, reportedly had several cuts of The Rise of Skywalker in place, which they showed to test groups to decide which one to go with. What I expect is that we will not find out Grogu's decision until Season 3 of The Mandalorian. From a practical standpoint, this makes sense, because Grogu's choice really has nothing to do with Boba Fett, and they'll want to milk this for all it's worth. Star Wars will be on the lips of fans for months if they do this. From the perspective of a soulless corporation like Disney, you have to think they literally can't buy that kind of advertising for Disney+, so I'd be shocked if the decision was made in the Book of Boba Fett.
That's a problem for future Homer. Man, I don't envy that guy.
And this is my personal spin on the topic. Not only do I think they'll wait until The Mandalorian Season 3 to reveal Grogu's decision, but I think that they probably have 2 or more versions of the story waiting in the wings. They'll want to see how the fans receive this information, this version of Luke Skywalker, before they move ahead. If Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka and Cad Bane don't bring back the fans who hate the sequel trilogy, then perhaps Grogu chooses the way of the Mandalorian.
You chose poorly.
However, if the fans go nuts for a return to the type of Star Wars that we used to love, one focused on epic characters and beautiful mythology, if the fans go apeshit over this, then Grogu will choose the lightsaber, and the sequel trilogy subtly becomes a part of the expanded universe, meaning it's thrown in the garbage heap. This is a clean, elegant way to shift the fortunes of Star Wars without pissing off the fans who like the sequels.
You have chosen wisely.
Corporations like Disney are very cynical. I'm a Magic the Gathering player and a big fan of board games like Risk, so consequently, I'm always thinking strategically, and I have to say, this is what I would do if I were Disney. And as I said earlier, there's already some precedent for this, as it was reported a few years ago that multiple cuts of The Rise of Skywalker exist. So far, it's looking good for those of us who want The Last Jedi chucked out into the cold vacuum of space so far that not even an unexpected Mary Poppins moment will save it from certain demise.
You look like Mary Poppins.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
If Disney is in fact waiting to see how we react, then this is what they're seeing. Check out the IMDb audience episode ratings. Chapter 1 was a 7.4, then Chapter 2 went up to 8.3 before the show cratered down to a low of 6.4 in what is clearly considered the low point of the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 3. Chapter 4 was much better, climbing back up to 7.6, but these last 2 episodes are in a league of their own, with scores of 9.4 and 9.6 respectively. What's more, the Rotten Tomatoes score has stabilized, as of the making of this video, at 61%. I'd expect it to climb in the next several weeks as long as they stick the landing with the final episode. And then consider this article from That Park Place. Before we get into it, keep in mind that the information from this article should be treated as a rumor, but the website has a great track record of getting information right. It says, "I'm hearing from sources that the most recent episode of the Book of Boba Fett has ratings that will triple any other episode for their first 24 hours. Now, I don't know if that's being measured in minutes streamed or in episode material watched, but I know there's big waves behind Disney's curtains right now as they digest just how popular this version of Luke Skywalker is. He appeared in The Mandalorian, and that episode topped everything on any streaming platform in the world. You might think that was a one-off and not repeatable. Disney is now realizing that's not true. How much some of the executives must now be kicking themselves in realizing they could have been swimming in untold cash had this been the Luke Skywalker that showed up in their movies. I'm not saying that because I want to start a debate. The debate is over. This version of Luke Skywalker shows up and views go astronomical. That's the lesson. And if Disney can't learn that lesson, then they literally can't learn anything. If this doesn't smack them right in the face, then Disney is even more ideologically possessed than I could have imagined. The article continues, "You want to know how hot Luke Skywalker is in the reporting to me? This episode allegedly beat Encanto in their respective first 24 hours. That's Encanto, the movie that blew away everything else on Disney Plus once it hit streaming. The Civil War fault lines are clear now. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have given Disney a choice. On the one hand, choose what they have created and what millions of fans crave, and Disney can rake in Scrooge McDuck levels of insane wealth. On the other hand, they can commit financial seppuku and insist that the sequel trilogy is a beloved part of the Star Wars universe, and they can bask in a multi-billion-dollar investment that never came close to living up to its potential."
Let me try.
Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.